Good evening, you're tuned in to Art Television and this is The State of Business. I'm Nishani Pigera. Let's first take a look at the stories that made headlines tonight. Prime Minister says steering committee report on new constitution making process will be ready by August. And government discusses options to face strikes by doctors. In our main story tonight, the Constitutional Assembly Secretariat organised a conference on constitutional reforms in Colombo today. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who serves as a chairman of the steering committee of the Constitutional Assembly, explained the present status of the work during his speech. The Prime Minister said that the steering committee, which is to determine the business of the Constituent Assembly, has to prepare a report on the Constitution.
Anticipated we may be able to submit the report in January, but it was too short of time frame. Parties needed to consult their constituents and their supporters, but we are now looking at a report being submitted towards end of August. Then what has the steering committee done so far? The steering committee has been a forum where the members representing parliament, different parties in parliament could exchange views in confidence. And I think we've been able to bridge the gap and reach a consensus in many issues. But there are some areas in which there's still a difference of opinion. And we decided that when we send in the report, we will in some instances refer to different options because we are not required to present a draft. We are only sending the first interim report.
The Prime Minister further stressed that the foremost place given to Buddhism will not be changed through the new constitution. The critical areas such as devolution of power and election mechanisms are still being discussed. He said they will meet next week to decide on the procedure and how to go ahead in preparing the steering committee report.
And secondly, in enacting the constitution, do we include all provisions or do we include first give prior to the provisions that may not require a referendum? So these are some of the issues that we will be discussing and debating to include it in the report. So there will be some instance the consensus will be to have different options, but this is not the final report. This is only for the country to debate, get the country's views, have that reflected through the Constituent Assembly and then decide on the next step. The experience you have will certainly enable us to reach a consensus because between the report and the debates of the Constituent Assembly is the time that we would try to reach a consensus.
Meanwhile, speaking at the conference, Dekan Moseneke, a former Deputy Chief Justice of South Africa, said properly compiled constitution is needed to create a just society. He also noted the constitutions should be able to ensure everyone's rights are protected.
And constitutions are important only for one reason, not to excite lawyers, not to allow bombast, but to help to protect society and to protect the most vulnerable in society, to regulate public power, which is given for one reason and one reason only, to do good and never to do bad.
The former Deputy Chief Justice of South Africa also explained the steps that they adopted to make the public a part of the constitutional journey.
We went out to schools, we went out to universities, we went out to social clubs and started educating everybody about the constitution that had just been inducted. In the public media, robust and free press was used for that. We had competitions around the national anthem, so there were composers right across the country who made suggestions on how the national anthem should look like. And we ended up with a national anthem with four languages. So we sing in 4 languages in South Africa. We adopted 11 national official languages. We created national days of remembrance for almost all religions and all peoples in our country. With live debate, televised debates on the Constitution, what about to happen. And in the end, competitions around the flag, how the South African flag should look like. And that's why there's so many colors on it. In that way, we had the whole community behind us.
Minister of Law and Order Sagala Ratnayake says legal action will be taken against the university students who damaged the properties of the Health Ministry during the recent demonstration. The minister said this addressing the media today.
හරියට සංඛ්‍යාව මම දන්නේ නැහැ. නමුත් එතන රාජදේපල හානි කරපු ඒ වගේ අඳුනගත්තු කලහකාරී ලෙස හඳුනගත්තු අයට ඒ කරපු වැරද්ද අනුව නීතියමය ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්න අපි කටයුතු කරනවා. ඒ අයව හඳුනගෙන තියෙනවා, හඳුනා ගමිනුත් යනවා. ඊට පස්සේ අපි උසාවි ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්න කටයුතු කරනවා.
We will come back with more news after this short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching The State of Business. Co-Cabinet spokesperson and Health Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne says the government is discussing options available to face strike actions of doctors. He said there is a discussion among the stakeholders whether to bring down doctors from abroad in any emergency situation. However, the minister stressed that no final decision has been reached in this regard. He said this addressing the weekly cabinet briefing this morning.
වෛද්‍යවරු විශාල ගණනාවක් පෙළ ගැහෙනවා මේගොල්ලන්ගේ මේ ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයට විරුද්ධව. ඊයේත් මාත් එක්ක ඇවිල්ලා වෛද්‍ය කණ්ඩායමක් සාකච්ඡා කළා. වයඹ උතුරු මැද දකුණ දැනට වෛද්‍යවරු 100 ගණන් කට්ටියක් එක්ක එකතු වෙලා මේගොල්ලන්ගේ වැඩපිළිවෙලට විරුද්ධව මේ කරන දේශපාලන වැඩපිළිවෙලට විරුද්ධව ඒගොල්ලෝ නැගී සිටින්නට දැන් ලෑස්ති වෙනවා. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ සමුළුවක් වහාම දැන් ඉතාමත් ඉක්මන් දිනක කැඳවනවා.
දැන් කතා බහක් තියෙනවා මේ විදේශයන්ගෙන් වෛද්‍යවරු ගෙන්නන්න යනවා මේ වගේ හදිසි අවස්ථාවන්ට මුහුණ දෙන්න කියලා. එහෙම යෝජනාවක් ඉදිරිපත් වෙලා තියෙනවා නැත්නම් කතා කරලා
යෝජනා ඉදිරිපත් වෙලා තියෙනවා එහෙම තීන්දුවක් වෙනවා.
Stocks closed in the red today. Let's find out more details after this break. Welcome back to the show. Trading at the Colombo Stock Exchange ended in a negative note today. The all-share price index dropped by 6.1 points to close at 6,697.08, and the S&P/SL index dropped by 11.51 points to close the session at 3,898.48. Turnover was 1 billion rupees and 124.1 million shares were traded. And now let's take a look at the day's foreign exchange rates. And that's all the news we have for you tonight. Do join us again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thank you for watching. Good night.